John Calipari. Your thoughts on John Calipari griped about a shoot-around. Give me some background on this, Caleb.
So John Calipari in the press, I'll just play the clip for you guys. In the press conference, after losing 76-52 to Tennessee, John Calipari said, talked about them not doing a shoot-around as one of the reasons they lost. Here's the clip.
The one thing I would do different in this game, and I all night tossed and turned, we didn't do a shoot-around today. And I just felt our body time is noon. It's pretty early. If I had to do it over again, we would have gone shoot-around. Because we had 3 or 4 guys like kind of no-show.
Okay.
Now, okay, John Calipari.
It's not like he wasn't allowed to not. It wasn't allowed to. It's not like he was forbidden to have a shoot around in Thompson Bowling Arena. And Chris, yes, I am okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he just chose not to. But wait, here it gets better. Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio shared a clip of John Calipari in 2022 after Kentucky lost to Tennessee in the SEC tournament game. He said he was upset with himself for not doing a shoot around that day. Well, then why'd you do it again? Sounds like you're just making up reasons you lost.
You know, my theory is on John Calipari, Caleb. My theory is John Calipari feels like he's accomplished everything. I almost feel like the championship at Kentucky was just kind of like a bonus. I think he wanted to be in big games. I think he wanted to win big games. And I think he likes the camaraderie with players. I like being around college athletes. It makes me feel younger. I don't know that he woke up like Bill Belichick and said, I've got to win as many championships as I can. I just don't know that he's ever been wired that way. He's always seemed okay with losing.
I think John Calipari will make up reasons that blame himself for losing that aren't why his team lost, but it makes him sound like he knows what he's doing and he's smarter than you. And here's what I mean by that.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. I've told you guys when I was younger, my grandfather had season tickets to Tiger games. Rest in peace. We used to go all the time to Memphis Tiger basketball games when they played at the Pyramid. And so we had John Calipari's first year at Memphis 25 years ago, whenever. This is a common theme for John Calipari dating back to then. I'm just going to tell you a quick one, Dave. Memphis lost a game one time, and there was a player from Memphis named Kelly Wise, who's a very good player, who was horrible from the free throw line that day. Typical John Calipari fashion. John Calipari was interviewed after the game. Here's what he said. Well, I'm the one who screwed this up because I worked with Kelly Wise on free throws before the game, and you're never supposed to work with the player on free throws on game day. I've never heard that rule before in my life. Okay. But a little 12-year-old me thought, oh, that sounds very smart. John Calipari is a really smart person. But now he's like, I made a mistake. I did a shoot around and I shouldn't have done a shoot around. Calipari says these type of things to make you think that something matters that doesn't really matter. Because he wants you to be smarter about the game than he really is.
No, I completely agree with that. But at what point does that get old? It got old with Kentucky, right? They let him go. But if you're Arkansas, if Rick Barnes came out tomorrow and said, we lost this game because we didn't have a shoot around, I'd be like, how damn old are you? It's one thing for, I remember Josh Pastner, who you would remember in Memphis, right?
Yep.
When he first
got the brightest bulb in the box.
Right. When he first got that gig, he made quite a few mistakes. And I was like, that's part of a young coach growing into the role, right? They hired him because he was going to be such a great recruiter in the Memphis area. So you allow him to grow in that role. That was the theory behind hiring Wade Houston. And we know that didn't work out. But a guy that's been a head coach for multiple decades to say, my bad, I forgot about the shoot around. That is a little... if I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm like, you don't have your game day preparation down. Have you ever seen the actual printout that they give the players of their game day schedule? It's to the minute. You are to be at the you are to be dressed and out the door at whether it's home or the road. They stay at a hotel. You are to be dressed and ready out the door. You are to be in gear. You are to be, Do they not have that? I mean, is that not
of course they have it.
That's bizarre.
I think, one, they were playing the #1 team in the country. Of course, like you're not fully prepared for the #1 team in the country on what you want to do on the road.
I think Caleb, I don't care if you're playing Central High School. It's just hard for me to look in retrospect and say I didn't have a shoot around because the game was early, or I forgot, or I had a big breakfast and I had to go use the restroom. I mean, whatever the reason is, it's just hard for me to swallow. It doesn't matter the reason. It's just hard for me to swallow that that's not your game day routine. I mean, you should have a game day routine. What time are our basketball games? They're either 7 or 8 at night, right? During the week, or they're noon or 4, pretty much.
Yep, and this one was at 1.
Right. Okay. So what? Early afternoon, late afternoon. Okay. Caleb and I could get together on a Zoom call this afternoon and write up what should be your basketball schedule for a 4 o'clock tip, a 1 o'clock tip, and a 7:30 during the week tip. Caleb and I could do that in roughly 10 to 15 minutes after the show. So that if I'm an Arkansas fan, I'm like, what have we just hired?
I think this was a built-in excuse. He had this prepared before he lost the game.
I don't doubt at all that he was sitting on the bench thinking, I've got to have a go-to, and we're going to make that go-to no shoot around. I have no doubt.
I think he planned the no shoot around, so that would be his go-to.
Well, that's pretty deceptive. I mean,
look, guys, I have to be honest. Okay, Dave, you're a Celtics fan, so you dealt with him. Who's a bigger snake oil salesman, John Calipari or Rick Pitino?
Cut from the same cloth, but Rick Pitino is a good X's and O's guy, so I would definitely say Calipari. Last look brought to you by Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and On.
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at CCTI.
So I would say Rick Pitino is a much better coach, wouldn't you?
I would. Rick Pitino. The only thing about Rick Pitino is I would say he's a much better coach. I would. Calipari is. But just Calipari, his accent, the way he talks, he makes you think he's the smartest guy in the room, doesn't he? Like you can be convinced,
yes,
that he's the smartest guy in the room. And he's like, honestly, Calipari would have been a better radio host than a basketball coach.
When I had Calipari on the radio one time, I had to ask about it. I said, so what happened with the Nets? And he said, oh, nothing. They told me it wasn't working. I said, write me a $4.2 million check, and I walked out the door. I was like, hell, if we could only all be fired like that.
I know, right?
Hey, Caleb, would you be okay if I said, Caleb, I'm sorry, I can't use your services anymore. Here's a $4.2 million check. You would manage to move on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that probably would last me for quite a few years before I figured out what I was going to do with the rest of my life.
Then it'd be off the Caleb.com.
That doesn't sound well.
What?
Off the Caleb. As opposed to on the Caleb.
Yeah, maybe on the Caleb is the way to go.
Calipari and Caleb, I could get a show with Calipari, Caleb and Calipari, the Cals.